Not really enthused with the Romaic Ruminations thing.
You want to change the name of the show?
I'm thinking more Greek Gropings.
Oh, no.
No, because Greek, because it's Greek rather than Romaic, and groping, grabbing the thing by its nub and really getting down to business. Greek Gropings, it's more of a hands-on approach.
We're back, Dean.
Are we? In many ways, we never left.
It's like we're a glutton for punishment, honestly. But you know what? I've heard some pretty good things from people with regards to the show that we basically did.
Obviously, they have no taste or critical faculties.
No taste whatsoever, I don't think.
No.
Absolutely none. So, first thing is, even though I've already used the word once, I am going to make sure that I don't use that word again.
What word's that? Contrafibularities?
I'm not saying that word, Dean.
Okay. Come on, say it with me. Contrafibularities. You know you love it.
Contrafibularities.
So you did it. You did it. Didn't hurt too much.
Oh, sorry. You know what annoys me? How some people pronounce nuclear as nuclear.
Or how people say Australia instead of Australia.
Yeah. The Brits, and especially if the proper upper RP, they tend to really emphasise the or bit, I find.
Or picture instead of picture. I remember that in the old days. Going to the pictures?
Yeah, as opposed to the cinemas or what have you. Right, so we're going to be doing, if you and I sat down, we thought we'll pick a few things up to actually start the program off with.
Before we do that, just on a point of clarification,
yes.
As we were recording, and I don't know if the recording captured this, you said the word G. So I'm wondering whether this program is actually brought to you by the letter G. Because I don't like G. I prefer F.
Okay.
Spelled PH, like I said last show.
Oh, right, all right. So
are we doing this? Is the show brought by letters and numbers, or do we leave that out because there are no sponsors?
Well, not yet. But would sponsorship matter based on, how we bring about
it goes to the heart of the integrity of the show. If, for example,
integrity.
If the sponsor wants to have this segment or whatever segment brought to you by the letter Z, do we acquiesce to that just because we're getting filthy lucre?
Well, it depends how much integrity we basically have.
Oh, mine's for sale anytime.
And if you want to find out how much, just send us an email and we'll let you know.
I'm not even going to look in that direction because I won't even grant a dignity of a response to those who would sponsor me. I'm not looking at you.
Well, tough luck. Show must go on.
Let's get on with the show.
Okay. So, we're going to split things up pretty much along the same lines. We do have your Facebook frolic, so thanks for actually keeping that going.
That's another thing.
Yes.
I'm not really enthused with the Romaic Ruminations thing.
You want to change the name of the show?
I'm thinking more Greek Gropings.
Oh, no.
No, because Greek, because it's Greek rather than Romaic, and groping, grabbing the thing by its nub and really getting down to business. Greek Gropings, it's more of a hands-on approach. What's this rumination stuff?
Well, there is just something...
Greek Gropings.
There's something somewhat cerebral about ruminations. Greek groping sounds a little gutter-like.
That's my point. My point is it's hands-on. It's something you can wrap your fingers around.
So there's a lot of symbolism in what you're proposing,
Should
Dean.
we discuss that after the show?
You know what? Let's discuss it after the show.
Can we have a phone poll, or you didn't invest in enough facilities?
No, I'm afraid no. I can't do any phone polls.
Typical.
But maybe you can do a
straw poll.
A straw poll. Maybe a Facebook thing. I don't know. I think they do some polls on Facebook. I'll figure it out.
Yeah,
I'll figure it out. Okay. All right. So, a few things I want to discuss. One is your there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 items here from Facebook that tickled my fancy that I want to actually bring up with you.
So you've just ruined the suspense. So now people know that there are 5 items. It could have been 4, could have been 2,
could have been 10.
7.
No, I want to be able to actually give people fair warning.
It's good because the suspense was killing me anyway. Now I feel relieved.
Well, you just keep on posting stuff, mate.
I don't do it for the purpose of this show.
Well, it's fascinating stuff. People are interested.
So they say.
Yeah. Well,
so you say.
Yeah. Well, I find it interesting. Now, the other thing I thought we'll introduce is, I hate using this. We'll have to come up with something fun for this too, but it's like an on this day thing whereby we can actually start looking at interesting facts in Greek history.
And you want it to be an alliteration? Calendar concatenations?
Yeah. Okay, that might work. Let's work on that. But I thought that what we might do too is we might actually focus on maybe one or two dates with regards to the Greek War of Independence.
Okay.
Just for the sake of
200 years of
200
celebrating
years,
our freedom and
absolutely.
everything else good that's derives from that.
That's right. So, let's start with the first one. Oh, yes, okay. Let me bring this one up. Because unfortunately, where are we? Here we go. All right. Let me drag this across over here.
Okay, so we're looking at this way.
All right. And 3, 2, 1.
We're back in the room.
So here we go.
Oh,
now,
God.
what are we looking at here?
God. Well, what are we looking at here?
All right, we're going to describe it for those on the podcast.
My big fat grzk, because what? Oh, how cute. They've made the E into a sigma to make it look more Greek.
Yes.
Idiot. The sigma is a different letter than an E. And if you're going to indulge in stereotypes, do you know no bounds? That you must go and bastardize our beautiful alphabet, which we've given the entire Western world as well. And then the word's wedding plain, and then we've crossed out the 2. And we've got a 3 because, guess what? She's having another crack. Probably because 1 was puerile, 2 was excremental. The one that was in between, which was, what was that one called? My Life in Ruins, which I like to rename My Time in Ruins because after watching it in the cinemas, I wanted my life back.
Mate, we're really starting to show off.
I really liked My Life in Ruins because the love interest is a Greek guy from Greece, so he's all like exotic and he's probably got a name like Spiros or Nikos. I can't remember what his name is.
Right.
But in the film, he was called Poopy Kaka. His name was Mr. Poopy Kaka.
That was his name?
And I thought, how clever. And this is the apogee of Greek American satire. That you could name someone Poopy Kaka and expect that to be funny. And I thought, Vardalos, or rather Vandalos, because you are a vandal. This is just great. I love this. Yeah? Fantastic stuff. Let's all get out the Windex and pretend that Windex cures everything, because it bloody doesn't. We use Varekina in Australia. Okay? That gets rid of germs. Not Windex. But, Greek Americans are funny people, Pete. And you would have seen this. I know I used
very
to travel
careful. I've got many friends who are.
No, I do too. I've got relatives who are Greek Americans. God bless them. God love them. We don't talk, but that's beside the point. They love America.
Yeah.
And you go to America, so I'm told, because I've seen the photos, and you have all these very proud Greek Americans flying the American flag and the Greek flag on their lawn. Yeah. And it's all about, the 25th of March and getting your Greek on and Opa and Oprah and all these things.
Right.
But they are uncritical lovers of America, which, as we know, is the great imperialist demon of our time.
Oh, God.
So I remember being in Greece and being with a bunch of Greek Americans at one of those conferences for Greeks abroad. And
right,
things like that.
okay, all right.
And, they're all very enthusiastic.
Yeah.
Australian Greeks are more laid back, more cynical, because you are really coloured by the land in which you live.
Yes.
And you adopt the
totally
attributes,
agree with
the
that.
attitudes.
Yes, 100%
and that's
agree.
what's brilliant about being Greek. There's all so many forms.
Mm.
And I'm thinking, what can I do to liven things up? And it was at the time of the Iraqi invasion, when America invaded Iraq in 2003. Right. So I said to him, Gamo tin Ameriki sas gamo.
Oh, you said what?
You can't see that! And like, and your president is an evil man and he's a war criminal and he's creating untold misery throughout the world. He's my president. And how would you like it if I said that your prime minister was an evil shit? And I said, but he is.
That's what.
And I hate him. And they were just looking at me saying, you can't say that. I said, I can. I just did.
Yeah, but
I hate your president and I hate my prime minister. No. You can't say that. You're a proud Australian. I'm like, what's that got to do with the fact that I hate your president who is an evil bastard?
All right. So there's a few things that I needed.
Half dyslexic, half entitled, but all bastard.
Okay, so there's a couple of things I need to deconstruct here. One, my experience with Greek Americans was actually quite different.
Yeah, but you've been there, so you actually can speak with authority. I'm just talking out of my hat.
But let me tell you, when I did go there, I suffered under the same preconceptions. So based on, what I've seen on film or Greek Americans I might have met in Greece, but when I've actually gone there, I was quite surprised. First and foremost, the one person who I'm pretty close with, Costa, who everyone calls Gus.
Yeah, because Gastus. That really makes sense, doesn't it?
Listen, it works for them.
Did you meet John Stamos?
No, I did not meet.
Well, then what was the point of that visit?
Well,
Michael Dukakis?
No, I'm afraid not.
All right, fine. So you met some nondescript guy called Gus.
Gus.
And now you're an authority on Greek Americans, are you?
Well, I think I wouldn't call myself an authority, but I'm just talking about my experiences with them.
Okay.
So the very first thing is that, yes, proud Americans. I wouldn't say overtly, though. So Gus hardly ever discusses it. And when I say him, I'm talking about Dimitri Molokhidis, also a New Yorker. I'm also talking about their kids too.
Are you name dropping? Because none of these names mean anything to me.
Okay, all right. So the ones that I've basically met.
How about you do this? Just replace it with John Stamos and Michael Dukakis.
yeah, and Jennifer
and maybe
Aniston.
Olympia Dukakis. Well, yeah, Jennifer Aniston. Now, that's an interesting point since you raised. You see on Facebook all these memes. It's like Greek women doing this or getting angry, and it's pictures of Jennifer Aniston.
Right.
And you question to the extent that Jennifer Aniston is Greek, feels Greek, partakes of Greek culture. Yeah. But because she's a good-looking, successful lady in Hollywood, all of a sudden she epitomizes what it is to be Greek. And I love that. Because you don't see any, bringing back to our chosen topic, because we've gone far off. You don't see any memes. You don't really see too many memes of Nia Vardalos being portrayed as the epitome of Greek womanhood.
No.
Why?
No.
Because her films are excremental. Because they make no sense.
I'm not entirely sure, and I've never asked any of my friends in the States what they actually think of this film. I was not. So going back to them, let me just clarify that they can be very critical of their country and the decisions that are made by their country when I was speaking to them. So there are many who are capable of that type of discourse. I don't go to my way to antagonize them though, but every time I've raised a criticism, I was never really met with, oh, you can't say that, oh, what are you doing insulting my country? Nothing like that. But
are you sure you're an American? You weren't in Canada? Because they're different up there. Maybe you're just crossed the border and not known it. But the point is this lady creates puerile stereotypes which are outdated, irrelevant, and let's face it, not funny.
You weren't a fan of the first film.
And I hate her for one reason, and one reason only, which is this. Every time, ever since the first movie, which, by the way, I fell asleep in the middle of.
Right, okay.
I was in Greece when I was watching it. In Greece, it's called Gamos ala Ellinika, and I fell asleep.
All right.
Because it was so boring. But every time I go to a Greek-Australian function, a yorti, a birthday, there's always some 50-year-old aunt or friend who will say, "Ine keki mori," because that's that punchline from the film, the bunt cake, and she's saying, "What's a bunt? What's a bunt?" And then she says, "Ine keki mori." That's what I mean.
I don't recall that.
Exactly, you don't recall.
I don't recall a lot about that film, to be honest.
That's my point. If you don't recall it, it's not really worth watching.
Yeah, I must.
It's a film which, to me, really says, okay, when you are dealing with your own culture, and when you want to portray that culture outwards,
right?
To what extent do you then appeal to the stereotype conceptions that the others have, the mainstream has, in order to get your message across? If indeed you have a message, which she doesn't, I believe. I mean, the premise of the first film that, she's marrying a non-Greek and it's the first time in the family, and it's all confronting.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not something that's so far relevant now.
True.
Because it's a different age.
Yeah.
Everyone's gotten used to that.
Yeah.
We're in a different ballgame.
Absolutely. Yeah.
No one speaks Greek anymore anyway, so that's irrelevant. It's worrying
I
about
wouldn't say
preserving
nobody.
culture. Well, generally they
You
don't.
do a good job with your kids.
I only speak Greek to myself. Who else would I speak? Who else would have a conversation with me?
Right, okay.
But the point is this. Outdated movie.
Right.
Having a crack for number 3. Let's see if she gets something right. I'd be interested to see what. Because the first one's about her and her experience getting married to the non-Greek and all of the hijinks and hilarity that ensues.
Yep.
Υποτίθεται. Number 2 is about dealing with her daughter growing up. Yada, yada, yada. What's number 3? The grandkids? They're going to fight over periusia.
You know what?
We are agog, and the G is spelt with GH like Vincent van Gogh, with anticipation. So, yeah, enough said. Now, you brought something else up there.
No, but yeah. So let me just flick over here. So
Right, this lovely guy here,
yes, I'm going to just flick
looking
over
very
here.
smug with his arms crossed.
Right.
And,
So
looking at us.
So what are we looking at here? Who is
Okay, this is Kondraty Rylyev. He
All right.
was a poet in Russia,
Right.
around about the time of the revolution.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that we don't realize about the Greek Revolution is how influential it was in fanning other liberal movements and pushes for democracy in countries like Russia, which
Right.
was an autocracy and remained one until 1917, in which case after that it became a murderous dictatorship. Rylyev was what we call a Decemvirist. There was a revolt in Russia in the 1826,
Mhm.
and that was all about allowing Russia to be ruled by the rule of law and not by the fiat of the Tsar.
Right.
So there was a revolt with the officer class, and he was killed in that revolt. He was a very, very passionate supporter of Greek independence. So we have some of his poems that he's written to famous Russian heroes like Yermolov,
Right.
who also supported, he was a general who supported the independence of Greece.
Mm-hmm.
He was fighting the Turks in the Caucasus,
Mm-hmm.
trying to expand the Russian border southwards. And Rylyev wrote him a poem in, I think it was 1822, begging him to get involved in the Greek independence movement, bring his troops to Greece in order to fight
Begging the Tsar.
there. Yeah, well, no, asking Yermolov, bring your troops there.
Oh,
And the idea was
okay.
for Yermolov to petition the Tsar to do so.
Right.
Now, Yermolov had recommended that the Tsar get involved, but the Tsar didn't want to do that
No.
for many important reasons. One is he was ruling a multi-ethnic empire. He
Yeah.
didn't want to encourage ethnic separatist movements within that.
Yeah.
Rylyev and his like were thus envisaging a Greece that would be ruled by a liberal constitution, full democracy, and they wanted also to apply that to Russia. So for them, Greece was the prototype, and if that would be successful, they'd want that approach to Russian governance as well.
Right.
He was killed as a result of these ideas, and he died holding a book of Byron's poetry in his hands as he was being shot.
Wow. Now Byron, huge topic there, I suppose, as well. Right. So
Well, let's leave Byron for another day because
Yeah.
Byron is a massive topic.
yeah, that's what.
But
yeah.
let's talk a bit about Pushkin, who was another poet who wrote extensively. And he's Russia's national poet.
Right. Okay.
Casanova, no one's wife or daughter was safe. Really, they weren't.
Wait.
He was a
Pushkin
lover.
was Casanova was Pushkin's creation.
No, he was a Casanova.
Oh, he was a Casanova. Okay. I was, sorry,
He puts the
mistaken,
pushy into Pushkin. And interestingly enough, he worked for Kapodistrias, who was the first governor of Greece. And so Pushkin got a cushy job through his connections in the foreign ministry.
Wow.
Pushkin was one of two foreign ministers at the time, Nesselrode and Kapodistrias, and he worked for Kapodistria. And he was writing poems about the necessity of freeing Greece, and he was also writing satirical poems about the Tsar and about the necessity of democratizing Russia. As a result, he was about to go to Siberia in
would've
exile.
thought-
And Kapodistrias wrote a letter to the Tsar, which
Right.
is still excellent. You can find it in the archives, which says, look, he's a brilliant poet. He's fantastic. He means well. Cut him some slack. So he got exiled to Moldavia instead, where he was supposed to live with the governor of Moldavia's wife and husband, and he basically seduced his wife and had a great time. Yeah. But no, the Russians, and this is an overlooked part of the history of the revolution, were very, very, very passionately supporting the cause of Greek independence.
Right.
But the political situation did not allow the Tsar to transfer that into actual
Yeah.
troops on the ground.
Well, there was a whole thing about, what happened in France as well, right? Like, this whole thing about people causing revolt, killing the aristocracy.
We don't talk about France on this program, Peter. Thought I'd make that clear.
Oh, gee.
Vive la France. Vive liberté, égalité, Fabergé. Remember that commercial? Long time ago.
No, I don't.
Yeah.
How did Contrati die?
You haven't been paying attention, have you?
Well, how
I
did
just
he
told you. He got shot. Was executed. He played a part in the revolt.
I know, I got the bit where he was actually holding the book of Byron. Yeah, Byron's poems. What year? Do you remember what year?
1826.
Oh, so a couple of years before. Well, fair few.
A couple of years before you were born, yeah.
Well, a couple of years before the end of the revolution, I was about to say. But yeah, thanks for that. Okay, all right. So, got any of his works?
Rylev? No.
No. Yeah.
Just quotes.
Just quotes, huh? Okay, well.
I bet you do, though, at home.
Yeah, sitting somewhere in the suitcase.
Next to the Pushkin in the chapel.
Okay, all right, no problem. All right. Moving on. Now, let's go to this particular wonderful-looking gentleman right here.
Who's that?
I don't know, isn't it?
I don't know who that is either. Or did we just put that there to pad out the program?
No, it's Lucas.
Lucas
Miller. That's it.
Miller, repetiamo.
Lucas Miller.
Why is Lucas Miller relevant? Lucas Miller is relevant because we never ever focus on the kids of the revolution, what happened to them. And obviously kids are the most vulnerable of human beings. Mm-hmm. There's a war going on, atrocities on all sides. What happens to the kids during the revolution? And they're left out of the national narrative. We don't talk about them.
It's true.
There aren't any studies. There's recently
Yeah.
a book published about the revolution by a great scholar, Paschalis.
Yeah.
It's called A Dictionary of the Greek Revolution. It's split up into topics. There's a topic about women. There is no separate chapter on kids. They're lumped in as an afterthought with the women. Now, many of these kids died of diseases. Disease was far the bigger killer of Greeks during the revolution than anything else. Because you have your various cholera.
Yeah, never thought of that at all, to be honest.
You're getting people who are sick in a town that's besieged. You're getting a restricted water supply, all these things, diseases abound. Now, Lukas Miltiadis was from Rumeli. He was from Livadia, and his father was killed during the one of the wars there. His mother died soon after. He was an orphan. And an American Philhellene who was fighting on the side of the Greeks, obviously, otherwise he wouldn't be a Philhellene.
Well, that's actually quite logical, yeah.
Found him roaming around as an orphan,
right,
and took him back to America. Adopted him as his son. So I think Baltimore. I think they settled in Baltimore.
Okay.
So Lukas Miltiadis became Lucas Miller. Lucas M. Miller. He kept the Miltiadis as a middle name.
Right.
And he studied law. He was a bit of a journalist. And he became a member of the US Congress. So he is the first Greek American to become a congressman.
Wow.
And not only was he a congressman, but he had conceived of a vision for America. So he didn't want the United States to be called the United States of America. He wanted to rename, and he actually moved this in Congress as an official motion to rename the United States of the world, because his idea is that the whole world should federate into a world state where everyone belongs to the same entity, but respecting each other's differences.
So almost the first proponent of globalization?
Well, I think that would have been Napoleon or Alexander the Great or Genghis Khan.
Yeah, all right.
Or the Persian King Darius.
Right. There were a few people that would have beaten him to it.
But he was a visionary.
I'll give you that one.
I would have thought that this is a guy that we would make a big song and dance about, but we don't.
No, I never heard of him.
And there are many other Greeks who are orphaned or enslaved, like Chios, The island was attacked in 1822 by the Turks, sacked. Everyone either killed or sold into slavery.
Right.
A lot of those kids found their way into homes where they were actually cared for and not abused, although a lot of them were abused.
Wow.
And one of them, whose surname ended up being Khaznadar, became the ruler of Tunisia.
Ruler of Tunisia?
Ruler of Tunisia.
This is a Greek orphan?
Yeah.
How?
Becomes a Muslim, obviously, because he's sold as a slave.
Right.
And enters the Sultan's army and ends up in Tunisia and takes over.
Just by being in the Sultan's army?
Yeah. Being a gifted officer and having great administrative qualities.
Wow.
So it's, when we talk about the Greek people, we always assume that the Greek people are either the ancient Greeks or the Byzantines, but we don't ever talk about the Greeks who became Muslim.
Doesn't fit the narrative.
No. There's this tacit understanding that once you become Muslim, that's it, you're lost to us. But they did keep in contact with their families in many cases.
Right.
They did not lose their language, but they adapted to their circumstances.
I suppose it's because we tie faith so strongly with our identity and our ethnicity.
Which is great, and there's nothing wrong with that. And that's something that's deeply felt within each person in different ways. Mm-hmm. But I would argue that these people are also part of our narrative.
Yeah, well, I can't argue with that. That's a very good point. So, anything else about this particular gentleman that we should actually know about?
Yeah, he should have gone to Specsavers.
Hey, listen, I've been told they were quite in fashion, that type of spectacle wearing thing. Well, it's not a monocle though. You got to give him credit for that.
Well, look, I mean, if we're going to start making spectacles of ourselves, if you pardon the pun.
How long do you know how long he served, when he died, or anything like that?
I think he died in 1904.
1904. Okay.
And he only served one term as a congressman.
Right. Okay. All right. I should do some more reading on him. He seems pretty fascinating. Okay. So, next item on the list I've got here is I'm going to go to something probably along the lines of that time, War of Independence and what have you. And I'm just going to hit this button over here now. Oh, now we can probably see it. So what are we looking at here, Dean?
What does that look like to you?
It looks like I suppose about to use dafo, it looks like a tombstone, but it seems to have Arabic writing on it.
Yep, that's a tombstone. This is a tombstone of Cherkes Halil Effendi.
Right.
And he was the Shaykh al-Islam. The Shaykh al-Islam is the highest Islamic cleric in the Ottoman Empire. Right. So they are the ones who promulgate Islamic laws, and then they're followed by everybody else within the empire. So he's like the patriarch for the Orthodox.
Right. Okay then. All right. So there was that hierarchy within the Ottoman Empire at the time.
It's a complicated thing, but he's the chief cleric.
Okay. All right.
He's the one that is authorized by the Sultan to make proclamations. Mm-hmm. Now I'll bring you back to 1821, and the revolution's just broken out, and the Sultan's not a happy chappy.
No.
Yeah. So what does he do? He says to the Shaykh al-Islam, well, you know what? This is beyond the pale. I can't have these people revolting. I want you to issue a fatwa. It's not fatwa. When you say fatwa, Arabs laugh. It's fatwa.
Fatwa, okay.
Which is a law saying that all pious Muslims must go and kill the Christians.
Yeah.
And we know that in Constantinople and in Smyrna, there were mass massacres of Greeks as a result of the revolution.
Yeah.
Because the crowd was enraged. They were whipped up by the Sultan. We're talking tens of thousands of people were killed as a result, including one Konstantinos Mourouzis, a Fanarioti.
Yes, I did. Yeah, I've got his name down as one.
So what happens is they arrest all of these church leaders.
Yeah.
Because the church was responsible for the Greek nation to the Sultan.
Yeah.
And they arrest all these other prominent members and holding them as hostages. But then the Sultan loses patience and kills them. Now, the Shaykh al-Islam hears this, And he's already speaking to Patriarch Gregory V about how to manage this situation.
Mm-hmm.
And Gregory V, the Patriarch, issues an anathema, anathematizing anyone who's revolting against the Sultan.
Right.
And he's doing this purely for reasons of safety, which is he's in the lion's den, he's in the capital, he's where the army is, and he's got a very vulnerable group of Greeks in the vicinity, and he needs to protect them. So he issues an anathema saying, look, if you are fighting against your betters, you're no longer part of this church. That's not good enough for the Sultan. So he's behind the scenes demanding action. Cherkez Halil Efendi is saying, look, I hear what you say, but I can't do this.
Yeah.
And the Sultan says, why? He says, even Islamic law states that if you are going to get me to order something like this, I can only ask people to go and punish wrongdoers and not the innocent. So if you tell me that A, B, C, D, E, F, G are rebels, and you name them, I can then issue a fatwa saying these people are against the law of Islam. All bets are off. Go, boys, go. But if you're asking me to endorse the slaughter of innocent women, children, men who are not involved in this, well, that's against Islamic law, and I'm not going to do it. So the Sultan...
They stood up against him.
The Sultan said, well, it's easy, you're going to go into exile. In the process of exiling him...
The Sultan exiled...
The Shaykh al-Islam,
his chief cleric.
Yeah. Well,
wow.
I mean, Henry the Eighth got rid of Cardinal Wolsey, didn't he? Because he wouldn't get his divorce for him. So it's kind of like that. Yeah. And then Thomas More.
Oh, yes.
So there are precedents in the Western world. During the process of removing him for exile, the Sultan ordered that he be tortured. For exemplary reasons, to make an example of him. No one defies the Sultan. And during that process, Cherkez Halil Efendi died.
Wow.
So, and then what happened was, there was a new Shaykh al-Islam who was appointed. He authorized the slaughter.
Of course
and there was a mass slaughter. The Patriarch was hung.
Of course he did.
From the gate of the Patriarchate, tens of thousands of innocent people were killed in Smyrna, in Constantinople and other areas of Asia Minor, not to mention Cyprus as well. There was a big slaughter there. And the reason why we're raising this is because in our historical narrative, there are the valiant freedom-fighting Greeks and there are evil Turks. But the history that we learn is much more complex and nuanced.
Yeah.
We know that there were righteous people, like the Shaykh al-Islam, who actually stood up to the Sultan, said, look, war's war, and we get all that, but we can't just be depraved and commit atrocities, and I'm not going to endorse that. And he paid for that with his life. And we don't know anything about him as Greeks.
Yeah,
we don't mention him. We don't discuss these people.
Never heard of him.
And we don't honour him. There should be a monument to this man.
Well, that's actually saying something, isn't it? Petitioning to get a monument for the leader of the Islamic people of the Ottoman Empire.
Here is a holy man by their standards who did not allow self-interest, because he relied on the Sultan to keep his job, to get in the way of his religious convictions. And his religious convictions told him that to authorise the slaughter of these innocent people was immoral, and he wouldn't be part of it. And there are other situations of Muslims doing exactly the same thing. Warning the Christian neighbours, hiding the Christian neighbours, tipping them off. A lot of Muslim Albanians in the Peloponnese would tip off Greek freedom fighters and switch sides depending on how they were feeling that particular day. There was a lot of that. So the point is, when you're discussing good, bad, friend, enemy, sometimes the lines are blurred.
Yeah. And we've seen many examples of this. I mean, we're talking about the Greek War of Independence in that era, but 100 years later, during the genocide in Anatolia, same stories you hear. Islamic families or Muslim families.
Now I know why this program is brought to us by the letter G.
Don't make it. Let's not go there. But you know what? As I was doing my research and trying to get some interesting dates for the Greek War of Independence, I'm surprised at how many dates there are, and just massacres or beheadings, and one of them was this Konstantinos Mouzouris. So it was, even though we talk about that time and I haven't got the song in front of me, but
Natane to 21.
that's the is it the one where the man talks about living during that time?
Yeah,
Sings
yeah,
about
fighting with Kolokotroni and then sleeping with a good-looking woman in his arms. And the truth was that it was really bad.
Yeah.
Most of them died of cholera.
Yeah.
It was British fighting, bad conditions. Kolokotroni writes about how he had to lie to his troops all the time just to keep their spirits up, otherwise they'll just go off. Because they weren't fighting for patriotic reasons, it was for pay and conditions. Yeah. That was all it was. And it was a big task and a big ask, and they got there in the end, in spite of themselves.
I'm not talking about glorifying, but that song just totally covers and obfuscates the horrors of that time.
Well, if you want to,
it even cheapens the what those heroes went through by singing about, if only I was there with them and blah blah. I'm thinking, it doesn't sit right. It never sat right with me. It's a nice tune though.
Dionysios Solomos, who we spoke about last time, wrote Eleftheri Poliorkimeni about the siege of Messaloniki. And that's all about death, destruction, desolation, and despair. Now, you would expect this guy who wrote the hymn to liberty to be writing about the glorious battles and onward boys and charge of the light brigade, and, all that stuff. Kick some goals, play on, but
he doesn't do
play
that,
the game.
He?
And it's all about the destruction, the hunger, the humanity reduced to penury and pathetic, and their pathetic conditions, and really emphasizing the horrors of war. So the song you're referring to, Dalara sings it. It's just a popular song.
Yeah.
You want to really get a literary understanding of the horrors involved and the toll that these years took on the Greek people.
Yeah.
You read Solomos.
Well, I think then he was the most fitting person to write the anthem for that reason. Because there's no way you can really appreciate exactly what we have today without understanding the horror of what they went through and what sacrifices they went through in order to be able to free Greece from the Ottoman yoke. However, when you start glorifying things like that, it just, for some reason, just takes takes the ugliness away. And I don't think you can really do justice to our ancestors for what they sacrificed if you do that. I think you just really, really have to get into the nitty gritty and understand the horrors of what they went through. And now, not just those heroes, as you said, that we talk about, but these unsung heroes too. These people here who were not on the same side, so to speak, yet had sacrificed their lives in order to help protect the innocent.
So Cherkez Halil Effendi, righteous Muslim, on behalf of us here at this Romaic Ruminations, thank you very much.
Thank you. And and as you said, don't know, not a lot on him, but hopefully we can make that change.
Change is as good as a holiday.
Right, so I've got one more Facebook frolic, but I'm going to leave that last. Oh, yeah, last.
Isn't that a tautology? You've only got one left and you're going to leave it last? Doesn't that mean the same thing?
All right, but I'm not going to go through every single Facebook frolic. I've still got some other items here that I wanted to go through as well. Okay, and speaking of 200 years, apparently 11th of April, 1821, our first naval victory.
Great.
Yeah.
Where was that?
Milos Kimolos.
Milos?
Yes.
Is that near Mykonos? Or is that near Eos?
I don't know.
Because the point is this, and there always is a point. What I love about the naval history of Greece, and even today, Greece has, I think, got one of the largest merchant shipping fleets in the world, even today. country ruled by crisis, but we rule the waves.
Someone should tell the Brits that, I suppose.
Oh, look. I love what happened afterwards when Miaulis, the great naval hero, was asked to, the Greek state was set up.
Right.
A couple of Istrias was appointed governor, and he said, okay, you need to bring the fleet into Port Nafplio and hand it over to the official navy, which was being created. Miaulis said, no. That's my ships. You didn't fight on the ships. We fought on the ships.
Right.
Bugger off. Ποιος είσαι εσύ να μου πεις, ξέρεις ποιος είμαι εγώ? And Kapodithria said, I'm the governor of this country, and this fleet belongs to this new country that we all belong to, and can you please hand over the fleet because we need it for defense?
Yeah.
And Miaulis said, no. And then Miaulis sunk the fleet.
He sunk the fleet?
He sunk the fleet rather than hand it over to the Greek government.
Oh, have we not changed in 200 years there?
And I'm saying this is a great way of dealing with governments and property tax. Land tax. If all of us burnt down our houses rather than pay land tax, that will teach Dan Andrews a lesson.
Yeah, I suppose so. And anyone that comes after him too.
Yeah. So Miaulis was onto something.
By the way, we do not advocating burning your house down to avoid paying land tax.
Right.
All right. Oh, I've got something interesting here. 4th of April 1968, Martin Luther King was assassinated.
Yeah, that was sad.
Yeah, and what came up very recently was how they honoured the Orthodox priest who supported him during his
well, it wasn't
marches.
just the priest; it was the Archbishop. It was the head of the Orthodox Church in America.
Right. Okay.
And if you look at the photos of the Selma march, the iconic Selma march where they all got together and they marched up the bridge, who's standing next to Martin Luther King? Archbishop Iakovos.
Right.
In the full hierarchical regalia, standing next to him and accompanying him on this historic march. And that's reproduced, and the reason why that's reproduced is so that we can tell the world that, we're progressive, we're not racist, and the Greeks were really pioneers. And the fact of the matter is that, yes, Archbishop Iakovos exercised a good deal of initiative and bravery in doing this, because Archbishop Iakovos actually copped a lot of flack from his own people and a lot of abuse.
You serious?
From Greek Americans who were imbued with the racism of the mainstream America, and who could not understand why Archbishop Iakovos was doing this. And I'm talking about a lot of abuse, a lot of hate mail, and it went on for many years. But if you have a look at the pictures of that march, the only cleric that is marching by him, white cleric, is Archbishop Iakovos. Nobody else. And in an interview that he gave, you're going to bring up the...
Yeah, I'm going to bring up
I think the life... Yeah, that...
If I can get it working.
Flickering, but that's okay.
That's okay.
It's there, and he's standing next to the Martin Luther King there. There he is. Being very archdiocesan, arch-hierarchical.
There we go.
And there he is by his side. When asked why years later, he said, I know what it's like to be born into a country where I am considered to be a second-class citizen by virtue of my birth or my faith. Because Archbishop Iakovos was born in Turkey. He was born on the Isle, I think, of Imbros.
Right. I did not know that.
Which, after the Treaty of Lausanne, was given back to Turkey, even though everyone who lived on it was Greek. And then the Turks systematically went and made sure that the island was depopulated of Greeks.
Of course.
There are not many left. They come for pilgrimages in the summer,
right? But
there aren't hardly any left. So he said, I know what it's like to live under this regime, and there was no way I was not going to express my solidarity with someone fighting against that, and no way why I would not participate in making the country that I've adopted, America, a place where what I lived through Turkey doesn't happen again. That was a very brave and a very spirited and a very pioneering move. He was a man ahead of his time in many respects, a very influential man. We often argue, and I do, especially with my Greek American friends in inverted commas because they only tolerate me, and we've been through that.
We just been through that, yeah. You would have made a few more.
I do, and many Greeks complain about America's stance against Greece. But the fact of the matter is that such aid that we do get and such consideration that we do get can be attributed in no small part to people like Archbishop Iakovos, who could ascend the echelons of power to get what they needed for Greece, not only just for the Greek American community, but for Greece. He was a major player, and who could also descend that to be close to the people who were considered by mainstream Americas on the bottom rungs of that ladder. So for me, this man is a hero.
So yeah, it was an amazing thing. This date basically came up, and as soon as I saw Martin Luther King, the date of his assassination, this religious man, it comes into mind. Like the first thing that pops into my head as a Greek is this Archbishop, and what role he played during that time in trying to validate. Not that need validate, but at the time, there was, Martin Luther King was going through
more than validation, active support, and collaboration. Have you seen the movie Selma?
No.
In Selma, and this is the thing that gets me about Hollywood, is you guys have got a prop department, and if you don't have costumes, call the local branch of the Orthodox Archdiocese in America and get a proper bishop's costume. They've got this weird stovepipe hat thing happening. It looks like they rolled a piece of cardboard around someone's head and put a sheet over it. It looks really bad.
Really that bad?
They have not done Bishop Iakovos any justice.
Right.
But he is one of the few portrayals of an Orthodox hierarch in Hollywood. The others in Fiddler on the Roof. There's this Russian cleric. Right. That's something else. But yeah, I think he's the only Greek hierarch portrayed in a mainstream Hollywood movie.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's an amazing fact. Going back a few years now, 6th of April.
6th of April.
1896.
1896. Do you want to tell us what happened then?
First day opening of the modern Olympic Games in Athens.
No. Rubbish. This is what they want you to think.
It didn't happen then.
No. There was an opening of some games, but the actual Olympic Games, the resuscitated Olympic Games,
yes,
took place 20 years earlier in Athens. I think in 1867 or somewhere around there.
Right.
And those games were sponsored by Epirot merchants, who were the Zapas brothers, who built the Zapion, which is behind the Marmaro Stadium.
Yes.
And the whole idea was they were the ones that conceived this idea. We want to resuscitate the ancient games. We want to do this. They built the stadium for that reason.
Right.
And the problem was that it was just for Greeks, which is what the original games were.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Why would you want to go and compete against other people when you could just compete against yourself? I blame the Romans. It was the Romans who said, we want purchase into this. You know, that Hellenophile and pedophile Emperor Hadrian, I want to be Greek too, and you want to be Greek. And then all of a sudden, all the Romans were Greek, and Nero took part in the games and won a chariot competition and all that stuff. But the games were for us. Right. It was a mark of being Greek. That's why one of the major arguments when people impugn the Hellenism of the Macedonians say, well, these people got to take part in the games, which means they had to prove that they were part of the club. Yeah. Otherwise, you can't get in. You get stuck. You get left at the door through crowd control. And that's the point. So Zapas said, he left all this money. Let's have these games. The games took place. They were a success. And that's when Pierre de Coubertin, he didn't want to leave us to our own devices, wanted to make it international, wanted everyone else to join in. Why?
Why?
First of all...
Why would you ruin such a good thing?
First of all, do you know what that did to the medal tally? It destroyed the medal tally.
We used to win 100% of all the medals.
Yeah, that's it. Now, how many do we win? We're lucky if we get 2 or 3.
Man, yeah, absolutely.
Who is the most high-ranking Greek gold medalist? Do you know?
High-ranking?
High-ranking.
As in the one who's won the most?
No, as in the one who is the highest in the social echelons.
Oh, I would imagine be some sort of king of Greece or something,
King Constantine, ex-King Constantine, the last king of Greece before he got turfed out, won a gold medal For rowing?
Rowing.
No, for sailing.
Sailing.
In the 1960 Rome Olympics.
Yeah. Totally thought it was equestrian for some reason. Maybe I'm getting him
Sport
confused.
of Kings.
I'm getting probably him confused with Princess
Charles
Anne.
and Polo. And they love their horses. But the point is that the 1896 games were a great success, attracted people to the Athens.
Most participants were Greek from memory.
Yeah, but Edwin Flack was there for Australia.
Yes.
And Edwin Flack won a gold medal for I think it was the marathon. I can't remember what he won. It was some race.
I know there was one Australian that won or something. Yeah,
it was Edwin Flack, the first Olympionikis for Australia. And because Australia was a new country, they didn't have the Australian anthem, so they played the Austrian anthem at the award ceremony.
I did not know that.
That is true.
I did not know that.
So Greece gets opened up as a kind of modern country to the world. King George is there, the first, benign, saying hello to all the other royals. Songs were written about it. Hollywood made a movie about it in the 60s called It Happened at the Games or something like that with Jane Mansfield. That's a fun movie of its time, which harkens back to that point because that was when being Greek was cool and Hollywood would make films about being Greek. The Boy and the Dolphin, that one, a few others when Nana Mouskouri was playing the music and they're all singing along and everyone loved bouzouki music. Now the only person that likes bouzouki music is Mr. Pupikaka and Nia Vardalos.
Yeah, you brought a full circle, haven't you?
I have. Let's smash a couple of pates and say opera. But
gee.
It was sad because it almost followed the same trajectory as the Athens Games 100 years later because you have this triumph, all the focus on Greece, and a year after that, in 1897, they fight an unsuccessful war against Turkey, almost lose Thessalia and go bankrupt. So they declared bankruptcy in that year. Now, Greece, 2004 Olympics, presenting the modern face of Greece. We made it just in time. You remember the Smith's Crisps ad that we all protested against, where the Greek workers were portrayed as sitting on their asses, eating chips while the race was going on around an unfinished track.
I don't remember that ad at all.
Yeah, no, that was an offensive ad that our benign Australian friends created on our behalfs.
Fantastic.
In order to portray us as really workaholic people.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Not because in Australia, we didn't work hard at all.
No, the term doll bludger was invented by someone else. But, and you remember that those games were famous for Saki Ruva falling off the stage at the after-show entertainment.
I had no idea he fell off the stage.
He fell off the stage in full view of the adoring public. And it was really a time where people thought Greece has come of age, Greece is in the modern world, Greece is the best, and then 4 years later, crisis.
Yeah, crisis.
So it almost followed the same trajectory.
Wow.
But it was good while it lasted.
There you go. Okay. Now, I'm going to go back to your Facebook frolic.
Okay.
All right. So let me just bring this up now. Come on.
Oh.
Here we go.
There he is, Larrabee, who we remember from the Get Smart show.
Now, you and I would definitely remember this, right?
Yeah.
And I would be quite sure that those who are older than us would remember him too. I don't know.
Unless they've got dementia.
Yeah, unless they've got dementia.
Because we are of that age.
No, we're not. Speak for yourself. I'm not.
I am speaking of myself.
Yeah. I am not of that age. Let's get back to this. So, he's Greek.
Is he?
Apparently.
Is that why he's on? Yeah, he's Greek.
Yeah.
His name is Robert Karvelas. His father is Greek. So would you believe half Greek? He's half Greek. His mother is, I think, Irish. His father is Greek. And he's Maxwell Smart, the guy that played Maxwell Smart, Don Adams' first cousin, which is how he got the job. Because we do things the Greek way. Don Adams, father was, I think, Irish, mother was no, something like that. No, father Jewish, mother Irish. There were two kids. Don Adams' brother was brought up as a Jew. He was brought up as an Irish Catholic. I don't know how that works. It would have been great dinner conversations, but beside the point. Don Adams' mum and Robert Karvelas' mum were sisters.
Wow.
So they're first cousins. He's half Greek. His father's Greek. He gets the job because Don Adams just thought, I'll put him in there. Don Volepso. He's my cousin.
Yeah.
But was good at the role, so he stayed on.
Yeah. Great.
And Don Adams' first wife, Adelaide, was also Greek. Hence the connection.
There you go. I did not know that either.
No, it's amazing how many Greeks are behind the scenes. Like F.W. de Klerk, you remember him? He was the president of South Africa before Mandela.
Yes.
His wife's Greek.
Right.
Yeah.
Is it true that our mutual friend John Rarakis was right with regards to Jaime?
What did he say? No one ever pays attention to what Rarakis says. You know what Rarakis was
posted
about?
He posted a comment on your Facebook account saying that Jaime.
I never read comments.
It's probably a good idea. He said that Jaime, who played who's the robot, is actually his first cousin.
No. Jaime is actually of French extraction.
Maybe the name, but I'm talking about the actual actor.
No, that's what I'm saying.
The actor
is a French extraction.
Okay, don't worry.
Rarakis is just a rerun of Rakus. It's a re-Rakus. So just don't pay attention. Great food there at the Philhellene's restaurant. That's a free plug, John. I expect to be fed next time I'm down there, which will be soon because I love your food. See, John is great because you go there and you say, he goes, "Tithes na fast, tithes." Yeah. And you say, well, I don't really feel like eating this or that. Well, what do you suggest?
Yeah. I'll bring you a bit of this.
I'll bring you a bit of that. Exactly what he feels you should be eating.
Yeah, that's right.
And there's some honesty in that. And the great thing about Philhellene's restaurant, this is the second free dinner that you're going to give us, John, is the fact that it's real, authentic Greek food. It's not like, oh, wow, dolmades, fresh out of a can, the way I love them. No, let's get some dip out of the supermarket and serve it and charge exorbitant amounts and burn some meat and present that as food. This is the real stuff.
Yeah.
That's why I love him. That's why I will forgive him his comments about Jaime.
As fake as they were.
Because he feeds me. And that's all there is to be said about that.
Food is very, very good there. And he's good company as well.
Yeah, the company bit I'm not so sure about.
He's all right. You're good, John. You're good. You're all right. Okay. So that was the last bit. But I almost forgot one thing.
Okay.
On Monday, we attended an event.
Was that the anniversary of the Battle of Troy? When was that supposed to happen?
Oh, apparently.
Because this threw me when you were telling me about Troy.
Yeah, it's a date that I found. It was on a website called On This Day.
Yeah.
And I was looking for some dates, some interesting things that were happening. And some website, that's why you really got to fact check a lot of the stuff that you basically read. Some website claimed that on the 21st of April 1174, Troy was invaded.
By who?
By the Greeks.
No. I'm sorry. It was not an invasion. It was it was a rescue operation. This is where you're feeding into the propaganda of the enemy.
Yeah, so you're right.
Because if you remember what happened, Paris came along and seduced Menelaus' wife.
Yes.
And these things are not done. Took her to Troy and kept her there and wouldn't give her back.
And that's your problem? Your problem with what I just told you right now is the fact that I called it an invasion. What about the date?
Well, that's the date that the Junta happened. 21st of April is when we commemorate the fact that the Junta took power in Greece, suspended the constitution.
In 1967, that was on the 21st of April?
Yeah, and 21st of April, which is also my second daughter's birthday. Not 67, otherwise she'd be older than me.
You timed that well.
Oh, I didn't time it. It's also the day of her name day, so there's all these circumstances. But the fact that she was born on the day of the landing, the liberation of Troy, is a great thing. Now, who comes up with these dates?
I don't know.
Why are these dates in any way important? You know what? It reminds me of, I think it was last year, they were celebrating the 2,500 years of the Battle of Thermopylae.
Yeah.
And
who
cares?
They had Jared Butler there.
It happened 2,500 years ago.
Hang on. We commemorate things all the time.
Do we commemorate the British, the Roman invasion of Britain?
I don't know.
No, it's so remote. It took place such a long time ago that who cares? Why is it important to celebrate the Battle of Thermopylae or the Battle of Marathon? It was important to the ancient Greeks because it happened around about their time. A lot of water has flown down the creek since then.
Yeah, but
there have been 50 million of these.
Many of us.
No. It's to make a point. And the point is this. They want to marry ancient valor and the way that these things have been mythologized with certain political, cultural needs now. And for me, it's drawing a longbow. It's like, as I say, the British celebrating Caractacus's or Boadicea's resistance against the Romans, and somehow extrapolating from that they're the same people doing the same things even now. And it's a longbow to draw.
I thought everyone did.
No, they didn't. We do that because we navel gaze and we think everyone else does what we do.
Oh, they don't?
No.
Well, we should go and teach them then. It's lots of fun.
And you know that, I think it was in 1971, the Shah of Iran held at Persepolis.
Yeah.
Or the ruins of Persepolis, thanks to us, because we burnt that place down when we conquered Iran.
That's right, we did too.
That was one of the great things. One of our kicking goals for civilization, there.
Yeah.
He held this massive ancient Persian-themed
He did.
do there to celebrate.
The Shah, of course.
To celebrate
he
2,000 years of the Persian monarchy.
Yeah.
And that led to his downfall. And the whole world was commenting about how cheap, tacky, and irrelevant these kind of things are. So it's great that, I don't know, almost 50 years after the Persian Shah has fallen and done this thing, and everything else happened there, that we're following suit. And we're celebrating the restitution of Troy and the Trojan horse. And, Trojans are more known these days as ties and as viruses, but that's okay. And if I was a Trojan, I'd be complaining at the stereotypization of my culture. But I'm not a Trojan, and no one really knows whether the Trojans at that time, if the battle did exist, were Greek or were Phrygians or what was going on, because there have been so many layers discovered of that city. I think 12 layers. 12 versions of that city have been dug up. It's a very old city.
Well, Dean, you know what? I'm going to open a can of worms. Listen, I have read that they're not even sure whether, what was his name?
Spiro.
No, the German who actually dug up Troy.
Heinrich Schliemann.
They're not even sure whether Schliemann actually found it, or whether he cleared it and actually found an older city instead.
Well, that's the point, because Schliemann was an archaeologist, a man of his time. He was interested in finding artifacts to show off, rather than undertaking a scientific study.
Yeah, that's right.
To chronology and relating everything to its period.
Yeah.
And he did the same in Greece when he was doing Xanaskafes in Mycenae. And he found that so-called gold mask of Agamemnon. Now, we got no idea whether that was Agamemnon's, whether it was somebody else's, or who it belonged to.
I mean,
it's all part of the story, and you get to go to the museum, and it's much more easy for marketing purposes to know the name of the person you're looking at. Otherwise, nondescript Greek, possibly Greek king who we don't know what his name is. No. Agamemnon.
Yeah.
That's it.
Much better. But this is now that was a very long tangent, but that was not what I was referring to. I was referring to an event we attended in Coolaroo on Monday night, and specifically the New Year celebration event for the Assyrian people.
Okay.
So what I wanted to do is I just wanted to talk a little bit about that, because you've had a connection with the Assyrian people for a number of years now.
See, I'm a member of the Assyrian community for my sins. And therefore, that's what we do as Assyrians. We celebrate Chab Nisan, the first of the month of Nisan.
Right.
That's my car. And you're being culturally insensitive now.
Mate, I'm not being culturally insensitive.
The Nisan Pintare is a very important part of our culture as Assyrians. And you're making light of this. And I feel triggered.
Oh, gee. Go on.
Letter Z today. It's not G.
No, Z. You're right.
Thank
It's
you.
Z. Z for Nizam.
Z for Zod.
That's another great film. The first one, not the one that came up.
Yeah, so it was Assyrian New Year, and the Assyrians of Melbourne had a function where they celebrated their New Year, and it was also close to their Easter because they've changed calendar. They used to celebrate Easter with us, and then they changed calendar. Now they celebrate Easter with the Western world, except for one group who were holed out and still retain the old calendar. So they've got that new calendar, old calendar split that we do. Mm-hmm. And what's funny about Coolaroo is that the church that we were at, that's the hall of the church there.
Yeah, that's the hall,
Two ikopeda down is the old calendar church on exactly the same street. That's really cool. It reminds me of a story that Metropolitan Nathaniel of Chicago told me while he was here last year. And he was saying that around about the time of the First World War, the Greek communities in America were split between Venizelists and the Royalists. because the royalists were neutral and they didn't want to enter the war, and Venizelos did. So he went up to Thessaloniki, proclaimed his own government. There was a schism.
Yes.
And that schism permeated through the diasporan communities, especially in America.
Gee,
so there's a place in Chicago where there are two churches on the same street because one was built by Venizelists and the other was built by royalists. And now they're stuck with both of them and not enough people to go to either. So they're trying to figure out what to do, but it's a relic of that time.
It still exists today?
Yeah. Metropolitan Nathaniel was telling me, and I thought that was a fantastic story. Wow. But that's got nothing to do with these very buoyant young people.
They're an amazing people, Dean.
And there they are jumping. They're quite a musical people, aren't they, Randolph, as they said in Trading Places. And there they are.
There you are.
And,
you're right there.
Themselves.
You're right there. We can probably just see a little.
Yeah, no, you don't want to see me because that's irrelevant. Actually, that's not me there.
No, it's right. You're right behind the dancers.
But the point of this, because I don't want to dwell too long on this, is this. Here's a people that have been through a lot.
Yeah.
Constantly subject to genocide.
Yes.
And constantly persecuted. And yet ISIS being the most recent one. And very, very friendly towards Greeks. And what we don't know is that a lot of them are fluent Greek speakers.
They are.
Because before they came here,
I couldn't believe how many I've met.
They sojourned in Greece. The running joke in my family is that the only person that has a Greek passport is my wife, who's Assyrian, because she was given the refugee Greek passport as a stateless person to come to Australia. I don't have a Greek passport.
And neither do I.
My dad's entitled to one, but he hasn't got a current one. And the point is that they are very, very close to feel very, very close to Greeks. A lot of them speak Greek. One of their priests is a fluent Greek speaker for that reason.
Yeah.
And, a great community.
No, absolutely fantastic community, and it was great being there. It was great associating with them. My personal experience was very simple. We spoke to our the illustrious king of all Assyrians, Jacob Hawil. And I remember we wanted to do a performance at Antipodes, and we spoke to him, and I said, and he goes, yeah.
Sorry, is Jacob sponsoring this show?
No, he doesn't have to.
Well, then why do we have to mention Jacob and the Antipodes Festival? Not mentioning any of that.
Have to mention Jacob.
Pete, not mentioning Jacob. Jacob Hawil is not going to be mentioned. Jacob Hawil's married a lovely Greek lady, Georgia, and their son, the Honourable Joseph Hawil, is the mayor of Hume.
Yes.
So he's the Greco-Assyrian mayor of Hume. We couldn't make it on our own. We had to have a bit of an Assyrian infusion there.
Yeah.
But I tell this man that the reason why he's great is because of his mother. And it's the Greek component within.
Yeah, but he hasn't really embraced that. Like he's
No, but it informs everything that he does.
Right.
Because he uses a very Greek approach to getting things done.
Oh, he does, does he?
Sphere. And he's one of those few people that I admire because his sole reason for putting himself up for office, which has put a hold on his career doing other things, is to serve his community.
Yeah. He's a huge community man.
So, enough said about the Assyrians. What else are we talking about?
That's it.
Oof, that's it.
We're done. That's it. I just wanted to mention that because it was a great event, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, and it was just μεγάλη εντύπωση. That's all.
I'll tell you what κάνει εμένα μεγάλη εντύπωση.
What's that?
Lots of things. One is how I just tugged the καλώδιο out of the thing just by a short, sharp chopping motion, which is one of my favourite ways of creating emphasis. But also, in terms of cross-culture, it's something that we tend not to consider.
What's that?
The idea that there are cultures out there that have touched us in certain ways or are in parallel to us or have tosa κοινά σημεία, so many things in common with us. And we don't really celebrate or look into those. An example in this year that I've been looking at the revolution in depth and really coming to grips, hence my wanting to call the thing Greek graspings and gropings, is all these other cultures that were involved. And you take the Serbians. How many, first of all, the Serbian revolt took place before the Greek Revolution.
Yes, that's right.
How many Greeks living in Serbia or migrated to Serbia to help that cause?
Yeah.
And the first Prime Minister of Serbia was Greek.
Had no idea of that either.
Yeah.
When, who and when?
I think his name was Naumichko. And but he had to leave because his master Karageorgiev was killed by the Obrenović clan, because there were two major families, Karageorgiević and the Obrenović, who were fighting for control of Serbia.
Okay.
And they were basically dethroning each other and destabilizing each other for a very long time. and most of the Greeks were aligned with Karagiorgi. So whenever Karagiorgi was on the outs and the Obrenovićes were in, it wasn't so good for the Greeks. But there's a Rigas Ferel street in Belgrade because he was killed there.
Yeah. I had no idea there was a street there.
Petar Naum, people like that, tradespeople, people who gave a lot of money, who used their diplomatic expertise to secure Serbia's independence. We had a stake in that. And there were so many Serbians who came down and fought in the Greek War of Independence, like Vasos Mavromouniotis and a whole lot of other ones. Georgakis Olympios was married to a Serbian lady whose first husband was one of the famed Haiduks or Kleftes of Serbia. A lot of Bulgarians. Now, we tend to see Bulgarians in the official historiography as the enemy because of what happened afterwards with the First World War, the Second World War, Balkan Wars, everything else. But in that time, when this idea of nation was still in its infancy, they were heavily invested in the liberation of Greece. And there were a lot of Bulgarians who came down to fight in the revolution.
Really?
And we ignore that.
Right, I had no idea.
How many Italians? The Carbonari. The Carbonari was a movement which was designed to get rid of foreign rule in Italy. And so many Italian Philhellenes came and fought in Greece, not only during 1821, but in 1897 and even later. And the point is that when the revolution took place, and when the Sultan just before that got an idea that the Filikieteria was a thing, he just thought it was a branch of the Carbonari. And a lot of European nations did as well. So all these things are interconnected in ways that we would never know.
No.
And I think there's a lot of joy in celebrating these things, and maybe we should be reaching out to other communities to do that. The Serbian community, the Russian community. Ypsilandis crossed the Pruth River from Russia. His master wasn't very happy.
No.
But nonetheless, that's what he did.
That's it.
Kapodistrias was the deputy foreign minister of Russia.
Yes.
He also had a hand in drafting Switzerland's constitution.
Yes.
Amazing guy.
No, it's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
And Capodistria is the Istrian peninsula, which is shared between modern-day Italy and Croatia. That's his original birthplace.
Really?
Yeah, when that was held by Venice. Not birthplace, place of ancestry, I should say.
Place of ancestry, yes.
So we have this very narrow conception of who we are as a people. But the fact is that we're diverse. We are one, but we are many, and from all the lands of earth we come, as the song goes. Yeah. And why can't we celebrate this?
There's no reason why we can't.
I think we should.
I totally agree.
You look at people like my compatriot from Epirus, Hadzi-Michalis Dalyanis, who landed in Lebanon, tried to raise a revolution there.
Yes.
I mentioned that last time.
Yes, you have mentioned that last time.
There were people who landed in Dumyat in Egypt to try and fight there because of what Ibrahim was doing in Peloponnese.
Wow.
And that's the funny thing. Ibrahim was, his father was born in Kavala. He was an Albanian who was part of the Sultan's army, born in Kavala, went to Egypt, found himself the head of a nation, and sent his son as a deal to the Peloponnese and to Crete to stamp out the Greek Revolution. Was actually quite successful until the Western powers got involved by mistake at the Battle of Navarino, because Britain had standing orders not to get involved. But Cogriton, I think he got in there and he took them on and defeated them, and that was that's what clinched it, because we started fighting amongst ourselves, as we do.
Yeah.
We did that after the Persian Wars. Hooray, we got rid of the Persians. Now let's fight against ourselves and kill each other.
Yeah.
And bring the Persians to mediate.
Yes.
Yeah. That's what we do.
That was crazy.
How many times when the Byzantine Empire was in peril through Arabs or Turks or Latins, all it was Kandakouzinos, wasn't he, that actually aligned himself with Turkish tribes and brought them across Gallipoli and gave them Gallipoli in exchange for support to get rid of his rival in Constantinople. Now, that was smart. Yeah.
Wow, I did not know that.
And of course, we had this Tuepos to Saranda, where we beat the Italians, don't mention the war, and the Nazis, and then we had the Civil War.
Yeah.
The after effects of which are felt still today.
To this day. Yeah. I've got a very good friend of mine who did a doco on his grandfather, and a part of the documentary was talking about his experience during that time, that Civil War. And he was there, and he was being told off by many of the oldies in the village that don't open up old wounds.
Yeah, no, they don't talk about it.
No.
I know this. In the experience that I've had talking to people about that time, they will behind your back, behind other people's back, say, oh, αυτός έκρυψε λίρες, αυτός ήταν χαφιές, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But they just want to let that go.
Yeah.
And I think it's best that we just draw a line and say, you know what, that was bad, and move on.
Just move on.
But the point is this, coming back to what we were saying before, we didn't do it alone. We had help.
Yeah, we did.
We need to appreciate that, celebrate that, because that's the strength. If you make it relevant by appealing to other people's understanding that this is something which is important on a world historical level.
Yeah.
If all you're going to do is make it Greek-centric, no one cares.
Yeah, you're right.
Because no one really cares about us.
Yeah.
The us that they care about is the idealized Western Periclean us.
Yes.
And that's a stereotype.
Yes.
And it doesn't necessarily accord with reality. How do you give people a stake in the revolution? You present it as their accomplishment as much as our own. And I think we're generous enough to be able to do that.
Yeah,
it's
I think
actually
we
true.
are.
It's actually true. It's not distorting the facts.
Yeah, and it's not one of our greatest strengths, I'm afraid, but I think that it should become one, especially if we actually hope to propagate and push.
And it's great for government funding for multicultural entities. It is.
I don't know, man. The evidence I've seen does not really show that, to be honest. I see.
What you need to do is you need to go to these people that get grants.
Yeah.
And you need to figure out the wording that they use.
Yeah.
Multiculturalism, inclusiveness, gender equality, which is very important, by the way. I'm not knocking that. All these things, you put them in there, recast it as the Greek Revolution, and look at it that
Spoken
way.
to so many people who apply, and the language they use. So I asked them, they get funding, and I asked how, and then Peter, you got to make sure you know what boxes to tick.
So would-be sponsors, if you would have us not having to apply for funding and instead being able to speak in our own language, in our own way, using our own superior and superlative diction, please give generously. The number will appear at your screen tomorrow.
Yeah, that's right. Tomorrow. Right. So, like we've said before, we got no outro.
Still?
No, we still haven't figured it out yet.
Why don't we have an outro?
I don't know. We never discuss. We always discuss what we're going to talk about. Then I might surprise you with 2 or 3 things, and then after that, we just.
How about Πάμε για ύπνο Κατερίνα, that old song? Do you remember Πάμε για ύπνο Κατερίνα?
No idea. I could find it. I suppose.
Πάμε για ύπνο Κατερίνα, because I am a little bit older than you. Remember when I was growing up, whenever we would leave a choro, or it was late and we were at someone's house, episkepsi, someone would turn to their wife and go, Πάμε για ύπνο Κατερίνα, and everyone would laugh, ho, 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 because that was funny in the 80s.
Why was it funny? Is it clearly a song?
It is a song, Πάμε για ύπνο Κατερίνα. Some of you may remember it. I remember it. It's seared into the memory banks.
All right.
So maybe something like that.
Okay. So tell you what we'll do. We'll close the show now, and very shortly, for our audience's listening pleasure, we'll play a rendition of, what's it called again?
Do you know what? I'm just insulted. Just go. Just go.
Hopefully it's not copyrighted. We can actually play it without it being
I hope they sue you.
You know any good lawyers?
No.
Neither do I.
Don't get me started on those bastards.
All right. Well, until next time, mate.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Πάλι κι απόψε πίναμε και πίναμε και στην ταβέρνα μόνοι απομείναμε. Τα όνειρά μας σαν τα κάρβουνα σβηστά και η ζωή μας ένα πέλαγο μπροστά και η ζωή μας ένα πέλαγο